Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Solarpunk workshop. We are today inside the workshop a lot more, as you can tell. And if you think this place looks like a bomb went off in it, or a bowl in a china shop, or about 20 other things, yeah, it's complete chaos in here. I'm still trying to work on it. But we have a little mini project to do today, because I can't find a particularly good guide on this that I thought covered everything. I'm making my own guide on this, and so I can actually kind of collect my thoughts. Today we're going to be building a Meshtastic device, and it's pretty simple. Think to yourself, what is a Meshtastic device? It is a tiny little board, and by tiny, I mean tiny, like about the size of your thumb. Don't believe me? Here's an example of one of them, and they get smaller. We're going to go ahead and open one up. And voila, literally about thumb-sized. You could literally call it a thumb stick. This is a LoRa node. Well, it's a LoRa device. This is the Heltec version 3. They're coming out with version 4, that's not important. And it's a tiny little radio. It's a long range, which is what LoRa stands for, digital radio that you can use to communicate with anyone practically all the way across the world. There are different frequencies set up for different places around the world. If you're curious about it and you want to see more, take a look at meshmap.net. I'll try and put that in the comments, which will show you a giant map of it, and it'll show you how widespread it is. How it works is, because it's a mesh-based radio, one of these little stations is going to be able to pick up a signal. And as soon as you send a signal through it, say through your phone or hooked up to your computer or something else like that, it will then send it along to the next point. There are plenty of other resources on this, but odds are if you've clicked on this video, you probably already know a little bit about Meshtastic, so that really isn't what we're here for today. Here's what we are here for today. We are going to go through my thought process on building a little solar Meshtastic standalone node. Nothing else. I need something that I can put up in a high place, will run continuously, most with, say, 80% uptime, and can be used to work as a middle node point for bridging other nodes together. Because if you're at the bottom of a hill, you'll need a node up high to achieve line of sight in order to actually get something to work. So, what all do I really need to do that? Well, to be honest with you, the only thing you really need is a cheap little Meshtastic board. And if you're getting into this hobby, these little Heltec boards, this is the version 3, this is everything you need to get started. This and a USB-C cable, which I'm betting you have probably 20 of lying around, and odds are you might even have got one here. There's everything you need in it. It has the board itself. It has an antenna. It's not a great antenna, but it does work. And you will have a little battery hookup bar right there. You don't even need the battery. You can just have this plugged into a USB-C cable and it will work continuously for absolutely no problem. That's how I had it working originally in my greenhouse for a while. I'll show you what I did for the greenhouse here in a little bit. That's all you need to get done. However, this is the solar Meshtastic station build. So we're going to go through what's good for solar panels, what's good for batteries, what's good for antennas, what's good for building a case, or you can use a lot of things for cases, but we'll be going through all that, and other odds and ends that are pretty useful. Okay, so the purpose of this is to have something that is, if I will have done my job correctly on this build, if I have built something that is small, cheap, I can set up in a couple of different locations, and I could ideally just like give to a friend or someone who lives in an area that would be pretty useful. I want to be able to build these in places that, like along the Rock Island or Katy Trail, which is here in Missouri, and that's a trail system that goes 200 miles all the way across the state of Missouri. There's one of the good things about Meshtastic is it works if there's no cell phone network, because you are building your own network. That's the whole point of these little nodes. These little nodes are the equivalent of a little cell phone tower. And if they can have line of sight to each other, you can have a system of communication that can go anywhere. I mean, practically anywhere. You can build one on. You can build these to be on top of a kite. You can put one on a kite, and you'll have line of sight on it. You can put one on top of a massive tower, on top of a mountain, on top of a drone. I see people carry these onto airplanes fairly often to talk to people. And line of sight is pretty useful on these. You can get them up to, I think the record is about 200 miles at the moment. But as long as you've got good line of sight and the weather's nice, you can get maybe 100 miles realistically. Really, line of sight is your big issue here. So put it on, all these nodes on top of hills. That's what the nodes are for. You want lots of little nodes all the way across here, and they'll help move the signal along because it's a mesh system. But I've talked long enough about that. Let's get on to what this is really about. We need to go through what am I going to be doing for this? I'm going to be using the, for what board to use. I see a lot of different arguments about what boards to use. I need something simple, it doesn't need to have GPS, and is cheap. We're going with the Heltec V3 because I've used it before. It's really nice. It's cheap. You can get these for about $20 a thing. So low cost, you can probably get these for about $17. I'm getting them for about 20 bucks. There are a lot of other boards available here. Some of them are probably a bit cheaper. By the time this video is out, it'll be outdated, but I'm just trying to help people go through and come up with what they're doing. So we're going with the Heltec V3. Great. Now, when it comes to batteries, remember, if you have this just plugged in somewhere, you don't need a battery, but this is going to be running off solar power. And it would be very annoying for every time there was a cloud to go over to completely ruin your coverage. So what do we need for a battery for this? Well, there are the overkill solutions, which I'll show you out in the greenhouse in a bit, which is a 3 kilowatt hour battery that does practically nothing else, honestly. Or you can also get these little hobby lithium cells. These boards have on the back of them a 1.25 millimeter just little battery jack right here, and it should have the cable in it. Yep, it does. Down here at the bottom, meaning that if you have a compatible lithium cell, so 3.7 volts that goes up to 4.2-ish volts, you can plug that in directly. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, where the heck am I going to be getting a battery from? If for cheap or free or from 1,000 or from something. Odds are you're not some weird mad scientist with just rooms full of electronic scrap that you don't know what the heck to do with. Yeah, we all can't be me. Honestly, I wish I had more electronic scrap to do things with. But here are some good sources. Disposable vapes, those have 18650 battery cells in them. Some of these older types of, well, the better versions of these solar lamps actually have 18650 battery cells on the inside. In fact, if you, there's a very popular project on here called the Harbor Breeze solar node, which is about a $10 or $15, just a little light like this, that you can get off Lowe's, that has one of these little 18650 battery cells in. Except they have a better version of it. These are the old versions, these are the newer, better versions. Yeah, 18650 cells have come a long way in the past couple of years. But that would be, that $10 or $15 thing would come with a case, a solar panel, a circuit that automatically charges the 18650 battery cell, so then you just have to directly wire that battery cell into your little node, and that will be good enough. This isn't the most power efficient one out here, by the way. I'm just using this as an example. There are better things out there for this. This has a Wi-Fi enabled on it, which is why I want to use it, because I like having things be on Wi-Fi and having it upload to the MQTT, which is how you get it on the meshmap. Weird thing, I like the map having more connections on it and more nodes on it. It looks like the thing's expanding. And oh my god, how much has it expanded in the past couple of months? This is late September. I first knew about it in, what, late July? And man, there have been a lot of people who've been adding stuff left and right. I even saw it on Live Like the World is Dying. Yeah, it seems to be getting popular. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing for solar panels here is I want to bring up a different thing. You can get these little hobby panels from all sorts of little projects and stuff like that. But I wrote this the wrong way. This should be $17 and $20 here. We bought this our Heltec V3 for about $20. Our batteries, you can get these potentially for nothing, because people are always throwing out like little disposable vapes, or batteries off of things like laptops will have 18650 cells in them as well. So you can, or people throw out these little, people throw out all kinds of stuff, really. So if you're really thrifty, you can find stuff like this. In fact, when this came with the house, it still worked. Everyone thought it didn't. So, in reality, you're probably going to spend about, I don't know, maybe $3 for a single lithium-ion battery. We're going to go with an 18650 cell for a very simple reason. These are... everything runs on them. You can find them everywhere. You can find them in bulk for cheap. You can improvise them from a lot of different places. And if they break, they're really easy to swap in. They shouldn't break, especially the modern ones, but... you know, we're being paranoid here. 18650 battery cells are pretty compact, have a decent amount of power in them. I mean, this is, look, this is 3.7 volts at 990, at about 10,000 milliamp hours, really. 9,000, really, but you know what I'm getting at. It has plenty of power on here. These boards only consume about a watt or less of power for every hour they're active. So you don't really need to worry about power out drainage all that much. In reality, it's probably about half that or even a third that. So we can go ahead and calculate that out really quick here. So for per hour, we're looking at maybe about what, 0.5 watt hours. Multiply that out by 24. You're looking at a good just 12 watt hours of power of storage here at max. And there are more efficient nodes out there. You can also put these in low power versions, so they won't be taking up all that much. And they're really only going to be using much power when they're transmitting messages. So this is assuming that node is working full time doing stuff. Again, that makes this 18650 cell really useful. So these can go for pretty cheap. You can find them, you can upcycle them from a lot of different places. Not the end of the world, though, if you don't want to use this. There are plenty of other sources of battery storage out there. But these are really convenient. They hook up to the Heltec boards and a lot of other boards. Some of them even have 18650 battery cell holders on here. Which, if you don't know what to get, you can get these in bulk for cheap. I think this whole bag costed me $5. So we're going to be using that. And I the reason I got so many of them, different story, that'll be a different project. I want to eventually build a tracking unit for my bike over there, but that'll probably be a different video. And one I can also plug my phone into, because that bike doesn't have a USB plug-in, but it does have a front solar panel on it. Okay, so back to what we were getting at. Our battery, we're going to put it at $3. In reality, we could probably say it's up to $5 over here, because there's always these little fiddly bits that you have to add, you know, extra bits of wire, our battery cell holders, stuff like that. Solar. Let's get on to the solar. Let's get on to the meat and potatoes here. Everyone says that, look, you really don't need a lot of power for these. Like I said, they use half a watt, okay? On the high end. We don't need to worry too much about solar. But if you must know about it, 5 watts or less and you're fine. 4 watts or less and you're fine. Probably a watt and you're fine, because you aren't realistically going to be using this constantly. So, for what we have for that is, and there are a couple of different sources for this. Like I said, you have these older solar spotlights that are useful, things like the Harper Breeze. Another thing that are useful, and I picked these up for cheap. This is from an old security camera. These are about 4 watts each. Very often they actually output to USB. This is actually a new one I bought for this project, because you can get these for about $10 or less, sometimes $8. And very often you get these garage sales too. People are getting rid of old security systems or their upgrade or something like that because, they go under all the time. It happens. Not really what the point of this is, but if you want something that will easily mount onto your box, has a pretty consistent output, these little solar panels are already wired up and are easy and ready to go. And if you don't have very often they output to micro USB. These take USB-C, I believe, which, if that's a problem, then we just need to get, hey, look, micro USB to USB-C. Oh, that's pretty convenient, isn't it? But it does add a little bit of cost. I think those cost a little bit about $1. So for solar, you can get away with pretty little. I'm going to say on the low end, we can probably go with about $5 to $8. Really, if you're really upcycling this. For what I'm paying for it, realistically, I got these for $10 off Amazon not too long ago. They probably went off cheaper, and about $1 for the little fiddly bit. So I'm going to say ours is about $11 in cost. Antennas. Technically, you don't need an antenna. Well, you do need an antenna, but you can use the antenna it came with. Never hook these up without the antenna, though, or give them power without the antenna on. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Don't do that. It will burn out the little board, and then you're out $20, which, it's $20. It's probably not the biggest deal in the world, but hey, you don't want to do it. Okay, so I went ahead and bought some larger antennas. Here I splurged a little bit. I bought these for a grand total of $5 each. Yeah, not the end of the world. You don't need a massive antenna on these. Remember, line of sight is the big deal, but the bigger, the taller the antenna, the slightly more line it's going to be poking up out of the rooftops and treetops, so it's still useful. And it looks cool having a big antenna on it. I sound like Bender when I say that. Not important. Okay, as for case time. Again, $0 or very close to it is what you need for a case. In fact, I'm going to show you guys what I used for a case not too long ago. So, I went ahead and bought a case for, I think, $1.50. And I bought one, I have a 3D printer over there. It's a very old maker bought 3D printer that's in disrepair right now, and it probably is useful for donating to a school at this point or giving away to someone. Not the point. You can use whatever you want for a case. I want this to be outdoors, weatherproof, and really resilient. And one other note I'm going to bring up here in a bit. But even the box it comes with is pretty waterproof. You can tape this up and just make sure that, and put some hot glue on it. Heck, one time I even took an old little, it was like an old better than Bourgeon jar, the little sauce mixes. I threw a little bit of, I threw the node out in there, because I knew it was waterproof, and just had the antenna poking at the top. I've got it on Tumblr right now. It's actually on top of my dad's house, but that's a different story. Anyway, that is what you need to know for using a case, but what I'm using for a case, and if you're building these to be off a grid-ish, or you're, say, putting them up somewhere you're not supposed to be, and you want them to look like utility boxes, why not go pick up a little utility box? This is just a, what is this here? PVC handy box blank cover. So this is a little handy box I got at Menards. With it in the cover, I think it went for about $1.50, maybe $2. And hey, this looks official, right? Even if I could even spray paint it white and it would look even more official. And you can easily fit your battery cells in it. The board takes up no space. And yeah, I think this will work out really well. Plenty of room for me to mount the solar panel off on the side of it and have the antenna poking out the top too. So if you're 3D printing these node boxes, try and make something that looks really rugged and utility, so that way people don't go taking them down. Because if you have it be bright pink, someone's just going to take it down thinking it's trash. Or they just don't want pink stuff on their roof. I mean, you gotta, remember, the more nodes in the network, the better the network is. That's why we're using Meshtastic and not Meshcore, but that's a different argument. All right, and one other little thing, because I'm going to be giving these out, I'm going to be putting in a couple of little weather nodes in here, or weather modules. There's a list of compatible modules on the Meshtastic website, and the ones I wanted to add that had, like, you know, wind direction and stuff like that on there, they weren't available, or I think they've been sold out forever. But these ones, these are the BME 280s. They plug right into the Heltec boards. It's very easy to set up, although, you know, Meshtastic's always been a little bit janky. So the only thing you really have to worry about for them is making sure you can solder them to the board pretty well. And if you don't have a pre-soldered board, I don't believe these are pre-soldered. No, they're not. But I have a soldering iron station. It's something to keep in mind if you're not good at soldering, though. They're small electronics. Anyway, let's add all this up real quick. So theoretically, you can build these for, let's go on the high end because you always have little fiddly bits for everything. You can build these for $25 total. That is very good. That's assuming you're very good at scavenging all these type of materials, or you just have a really long old USB-C core that you can just throw it up high on, like I used to do for my my greenhouse. We'll get to that. For our cost, we'll take the high end of this, 25, 36, it's going to be 41, 42, 50. Oh, and we have the BMEs on there, which they're pretty cheap. I got the wired ones, which aren't so cheap, but I think you can get those for about $5 a pop. So for a weather station that doesn't have any kind of charge to use, you're going to be getting about these for about 40. You're going to be paying about $42 for it. That will also be able to relay messages in an emergency, or you can use to help communicate in areas where you don't have a whole bunch of cell networks set up. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of odd little uses for it. Heck, I could set one up over here, and it could help track my bike, which would be really useful. I wouldn't need to get like a tile or anything. Anyway, I'm going to build that, but I also want to show off, just to show off how cheap you can build these things, what I did for the greenhouse. You might notice that there is a little antenna poking up out of there. What's that? That is the "I'm not going to Home Depot again today" antenna. Does anyone want to guess what the box is? Well, it's a tiny, tiny little Tupperware container. One that I couldn't figure out what to use for, but hey, it's weatherproof, really weatherproof. So I stuck that to a little bit of PVC pipe on the end, spray painted the whole thing, threw my BME 280 in there, which I have a bad connection in there, which is a whole other story. And we have a little bit of old trailer wiring that I stole out of a Harbor Freight dumpster, leading directly into the giant greenhouse power supply, which is a 3 kilowatt hour battery with 400 watts of input, making this really, really overkill. But hey, it works. And yeah, if you don't want to use a USB-C input, you can just directly wire it into the board. It works perfectly fine. There is one problem with this setup, though. Would you like to know what it is? Because I'm having a tiny connection issue on the BME and I have to go in and fix it, I have to climb up here whenever I want to do that. That is so annoying. So think about that before you go setting these nodes up everywhere. If you have a problem with them, you need to get to them. And even though this is on my house, don't just be dropping these things all over the place willy-nilly, because then you have to go run around doing tech support for them. Otherwise you're just putting a whole bunch of useless electronics everywhere. You know what another word for that is? Littering. Anyway. Yep. If anyone wants to find this should be on the mesh map. It should be the Solarpunk greenhouse, which, you know, is what this is. Anywho, I'm going to go ahead and put all this together, and I'll make another video when I have it working. So later all.